Minnesota Vikings head into the bye week with an 8-3 record after beating the Denver Broncos. Final score 27-23. It was one of the most goofiest wins in the history of this franchise, at least that I've seen following this team for almost 20 years now. And I say that because in the first half, for both sides of the football for the Minnesota Vikings, it was absolutely depressing to watch because the Broncos offense, they quite honestly moved the ball up the field at will with no resistance from the Vikings defense, whereas the Vikings offense, they looked like they felt sorry for themselves. It was basically Bills 2018 all over again. The Broncos led the Minnesota Vikings 20-0 at halftime, in which case I saw this on the broadcast, in which this came up, an interesting stat line that in the last 5 seasons, including the playoffs, teams are 0-99. They are winless in the last 5 seasons when trailing by 20 or more points at halftime, and certainly the Vikings qualified for that stat. And then the second half happened, which the offensive play calling, they kicked off the training wheels and they got creative. And then the Vikings, you want to talk about clutch. The Vikings scored 20 of their 27 points in the fourth quarter. The defense, for the most part, it was still suspect throughout the entirety of the game. It was more so a couple of factors, really 2 players in particular on defense that stood out. I'll talk about that in just a second. But then also the Broncos, they developed sloppy play calling in the second half. And then Brandon Allen really looked like a true inexperienced quarterback in the second half, whereas in the first half, he looked extremely confident. So I guess you can maybe say the pressure got to the Broncos as the Vikings were creeping up on that 20-0 lead that they originally had. But we'll go to the offense and a couple of players that stood out. I got 3 players in particular. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins deserves a ton of credit after I got on him after the Chicago Bears game, after his own players got on him, after the entire media got on him, rightfully so. Kirk Cousins deserves a ton of credit. He hasn't had a bad game in nearly 2 months. 2 months, 7 games of football, he hasn't had one bad game. Oh, the Chiefs game. Stop it. He threw 3 touchdowns in that game, all on third downs. You want to talk about clutch? Kirk Cousins, and it's not all rah-rah confidence, look at me, I'm proving you wrong. He's more saying, you know what, you guys say whatever you want to say in the media, I'm going to let my play do the talking for me. So I really do appreciate that because if anything, that's more of an indictment on Kirk Cousins because, this is what we've been looking for this entire time. This is why I've been championing him, or why I championed him all offseason long, not last year, but leading into the 2018 season, saying, listen, we need to bring in Kirk Cousins because the resources, they're going to be there for him. And as long as he's there mentally, because the talent is there, as long as he's there mentally, we'll be just fine. And certainly the last 2 months, he's done exactly that. This is, I would probably say so far, this is the best season that he has had in his career. Then you get to, actually one more thing before I get to the next player. 29 for 35, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, all while taking on 5 sacks. So his offensive line didn't do him any favors yesterday, but Kirk Cousins, he kept his head in the game. Then we get to the next player, Stefon Diggs. Oh, he's nothing without Adam Thielen. Will you stop it, please? 5 catches on 5 targets, 121 yards, 1 touchdown after 0 targets in the first half. So reportedly, Stefon Diggs was visibly frustrated and pissed off with, I don't know, the pass selection or the play calling, whatever it was. I'm assuming part of it had to do with getting 0 targets in the first half. He's a hell of a receiver. He's one of the best receivers in the game. Feed number 14 the football. He's been playing his ass off. And then Kyle Rudolph, 4 of the last 5 games with a touchdown catch, 5 catches on 5 targets for 67 yards. He's been the guy that stepped up in Adam Thielen's absence. So all in all, those 3 guys, they played their asses off for the offense, and they kept the Vikings in that game because now we're at the point, not even now, but you could say pretty much this entire season for the most part anyway, if not 99% of the 11 games that the Vikings have played so far, that now the offense is carrying this team. Whereas before, in years past, the defense, they're what's going to take this team over the top. Now it's the offense. The offense is what makes this engine all go. Then we go to the defense, and 2 players stick out for me because still the defense overall was not all that great. Courtland Sutton, my God, let's bring up this dude's stats. Courtland Sutton, I said in the preview on Thursday talking about Vikings versus Broncos, you have to look out for Courtland Sutton. That is the number one option that the Broncos have. And how did they do against him? 5 catches for 113 yards. My God, Xavier Rhodes, he is who he is. I'm not going to keep bashing this dude. I've said all I've had to say about him. It's really sad when you have your number one cornerback when he constantly needs babysitting over the top with safeties. That's what it's come down to, despite being a top 5 paid, if I'm not mistaken, a top 5 paid player at his position. And then I talked about Noah Fant. Hey, watch out for Noah Fant because that's the sneaky guy that you have to worry about. He finished with 4 catches for 60 yards. So not all that great, 4 catches on 11 targets. So, okay, as far as the catch ratio, that's about, a 33% catch rate. So you'll take that, but still, Cortland Sutton, he took apart the entire secondary, let alone Xavier Rhodes. But in terms of the 2 players that stuck out on defense, Trey Waynes, I thought he had a really good game after missing the Cowboys game last week. He certainly had a third down stop, a tackle for loss on third down in the second half, which forced a punt on the Broncos offense. So he played really well. He finished with Trey Waynes. He finished for 5 tackles, all solos, and a pass deflection along with that TFL that he had. So that was some good stuff right there. And Jaron Kearse, my God, the defensive player of the game, especially when you consider the final 19-play offensive drive by the Denver Broncos in which he had, I swear he had 3 pass deflections, but somehow Jaron Kearse on the stat sheet got credited for 2, so maybe I'm missing something there. But anyway, he broke up multiple pass attempts by Brandon Allen, especially the final play that sealed the Vikings' victory, which brings up the double R play of the game.
On this 3rd and goal, Allen and Fant, and incomplete coverage by Kearse. It's over. The Vikings have come back to win.
So 3rd and goal, 2 seconds left. This is the game-deciding play right here that will determine who wins this game. The ball gets snapped. Brandon Allen immediately looks to his right for number 87, Noah Fant. And when I saw this in real time, I originally thought that Noah Fant did a good job of boxing out Jaron Kearse to position himself to get open because it happened so fast that I couldn't tell. But upon further review, Noah Fant got away with a push-off, an offensive pass interference that should have gotten called but didn't. But either way, Jaron Kearse, he didn't bitch and moan. He continued to fight through the play and did enough to still disrupt Noah Fant from catching that football. Game, set, match, and just like Eric Kendricks last week against the Dallas Cowboys, Jaron Kearse was the hero for this defense because it was doom and gloom for a while. That final drive, that 19-play final drive for the Broncos offense, the Broncos converted 3 fourth downs for first down conversions to keep that drive alive. So it was really getting to the point where, oh man, they're really about to blow it. But Jaron Kearse saved the Vikings defense ass. So obviously, because that was the game-sealing win for the the game-sealing play for the Vikings to win, that is the double R play of the game. So you finish 8-3 going into the bye week. It's a lot better than losing to the then 3-6, now 3-7 Denver Broncos going into the bye week. Because can you imagine just basically, goodness, 2 weeks of just, oh boy, the Vikings oh my God, just clouds hovering all over Vikings, the players and the personnel. Oh, the Vikings, they lost to the Denver Broncos. They're frauds. And I would be probably leading that charge. Quite honestly, no, because I don't have the energy to really get pissed off anymore. I'm just more so observing what this team is going to do back and forth. But going into the bye week, you had to win that game. And yes, they were down 20-0 at half. They shouldn't have been down 20-0 at half against Brandon Allen. I get it. He's only played before that game 1 career game. So you only had 1 game of film on this guy. But still, that was very impressive. And later on this week, we'll talk about the makeup of this team, what we thought, or at least what I thought this team was going to look like before the season started compared to what they actually are 11 games into the season. We normally do this 3 times a week. However, since we're going into the bye week, I don't really like to force topics. Let's talk about the 53rd man on the 53-man roster and how he's going to impact the team. Oh, my God, please. I don't like to force feed topics and just clickbait or anything like that. So we're going into the bye week. So instead of 3 times a week this week, we're going to do 2. The next podcast for this week will be on Thursday on this channel, Realistic Randy, Mediocre at Best Sports Podcast. Check me out on Twitter at realistic_Randy, Facebook at Realistic Randy. We'll see you on Thursday.